Welcome, everyone, to Midweek Manna, brought to you by the Yahad. I am Professor Smith, and we are so glad that you decided to join us in worshiping our Creator and His blessed Son. We hope that this service ministers to you as it has to us. We are always looking for speakers, watchmen, and watchwomen to bring us reports about issues that affect the body of Messiah. We also seek natural health practitioners to tell us about natural remedies, and we seek preachers. In fact, everyone who has a talent may join us and share their gift, or just sit and listen together with us. We hope you enjoy, and may the Almighty Yahweh bless you richly.
Shalom, shalom, all. I have chosen Yeshayahu or Isaiah 60, verse 1 through 5. Um, at our gathering in goodness sakes, South Carolina, we have used this um, as a backing song, if you will, for several performances that we have done for the Moedim, the actual holiday. So I'll read it here. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and to see. All they gather themselves together, they come to thee. Thy sons shall come from far, and thy daughters shall be nursed at thy side. Then thou shalt see flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come to thee. Amen.
And tonight we have Brother James Kramer. He's going to be presenting our message tonight. And then we have a little bit of a Watchman report. I thought I would do that. Sister Sandra is here. I do have something that she sent in for a health minute. And so hopefully we've got quite a set of teachings for you tonight. Okay, so the Watchman report is something I thought I would do tonight. And this is in Ezekiel 33, verse 7. Now, as for you, son of man, I have appointed you as a watchman for the house of Israel. So you will hear a message from my mouth and give them a warning from me. There's also a warning that comes to the watchman. But if the watchmen see the sword come, blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned. If the sword come, take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity. But his blood will I require at the watchman's hands. This is why it's important for us that if we know something that's happening that could be a danger to the flock of Elohim, we need to let them know. And we need to also, part of the watchman is to, if there's impending judgment as a result of something that's happening in Israel, or whatever nation that they may be residing in. And so tonight, what I've chosen to highlight is the growing specter of idolatry, and it's very, very overt. And this is by no means an exhaustive um, set here, but these are some new ones that have come up. And so, for those of you who may not know, there was this third largest statue in the United States was erected in Houston, and the statue was a Hindu monkey god sculpture. And this thing is absolutely enormous. Now, Houston is known for being a very liberal town. There's a lot of gay, lesbian in Houston. It's not really considered um, by any stretch of the imagination to be conservative, but they have really outdone themselves in paganism here and put this monkey god sculpture up. It was just recently unveiled. And so here we have these statues. Now, here's another example here. This is in New Orleans, and this is called the Mommy Wata. It's a voodoo water spirit statue. Now, you know what was there before? The statue of Robert E. Lee, the great general of renown. Now, he did lead the Confederacy, but he was a strong Bible believer, at the very least. And they've taken that statue down and put up a voodoo water spirit statue in 2022 at the base of the former Robert E. Lee statue to honor Black women. Look at that. And so then there's an extra note here. Ironically, the real West African Mami Wata was based on European mermaids and was something sometimes even depicted as a white woman. That's interesting, kind of an irony there. Well, Isaiah chapter 2 has a lot to say about this. There's some choice words that our Heavenly Father has for those who engage in this kind of idolatry. Now, for those of us who are in Nazarene Israel, we already know that there is sort of a little bit of a light idolatry. In that, the churches, they'll put their trees up, or for the Ishtar, they'll have their bunnies and their eggs. And really the whole goal of that is to try to take something that's impure and make it pure, which we know that can't be done. And also simply because they just don't like to do things as they think the Jews are doing, so they don't want to do the feast days. But this is a whole nother level. And I would also remind you that Satanism, the bafflement, remember that? There was a big hoopla in the news about that. They had an actual Satan statue put in the state house, and I forget what state that was in. And then there was a guy who came with some kind of an axe or something, or a hammer, sledgehammer or something, and destroyed it. Well, he got put in jail. I don't know if he's still in jail or not, but he was kind of like a modern day Phineas. But you notice these horrific idols. I mean, it seems to me if they're going to pick something, why would they go to the worst of the worst of the worst? Well, because they are wicked to their core, and they're going to go to the worst of the worst of the worst. When you think about it, a voodoo water spirit, you can't get much worse than that. When you have, when you're talking about idolatry, you know. And so this is what is in Isaiah chapter 2. And I'm now this first part here, it talks about Yahweh's house being established on the top of the mountains. But what's going to happen before this, I believe, is picked up here. And it says here, for you have forsaken your people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled from the east with those who practiced divination, like the Philistines, and they clasp hands with the children of foreigners. Now, when you have all these different religions coming into the United States, even more so now than ever before, they bring their religion with them. All of these immigrants that are coming in from different places of the world, they bring their religion with them, you see. And so this is how we have these idols. And it's in the midst of what appears to be, when people are full and they don't feel like they have need of anything, they get lax on morals. That tends to be the trend of humanity. Well, here it is in verse 7. Their land is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end to their treasures. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end to their chariots. Military power. Their land also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their fingers have made. Man is brought low and mankind is humbled. Therefore, don't forgive them. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust from before the terror of Yahweh and from the glory of his majesty. The lofty looks of men will be brought low, the arrogance of men will be brought down, and Yahweh alone will be exalted in that day. Well, in that day, all these idols will be cast aside as useless things. By then, it's going to be too late for the wicked, for the ungodly. For there will be a day of Yahweh of armies, for all that is proud and arrogant, and for all that is lifted up, it shall be brought low. So this is a Watchman report, is sort of a warning to see that we are yet another step toward being humbled as a nation. to see this kind of statue and then this kind of voodoo thing going on. And let me tell you, I've got one more to show you. I actually had to blot out a part of this statue because it showed a extended genitalia, and I didn't think that was appropriate. But it is in public in New Orleans. I'm going to show you this to you now. Okay, here it is. It's this monkey statue, and this is in New Orleans. And it's got this seeing eye on its chest. And notice it's got all these, it looks almost like monkeypox ampules all over his body. Well, you know, monkeypox is going around right now. It's considered primarily a homosexual disease. It's big in Africa and it's spreading over here. And so here we have, we continue here in the scripture. For all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, for all the oaks of Bashan, for all the high mountains, for all the hills that are lifted up, for every lofty tower, for every fortified wall, think military power. This is the imagery. For all the ships of Tarshish and for all the pleasant imagery, the loftiness of man shall be brought down, and the arrogance of man shall be brought low, and Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. The idols shall utterly pass away. Man shall go into the caves of the rocks, into the holes of the earth, from before the terror of Yahweh. So when Yahweh starts to judge the earth, what are these wicked people going to do? They're going to hide in the holes of the earth. You think about these very rich people who are tunneling these huge fortified, even Zuckerberg, who is spending millions of dollars in an underground, what he thinks is going to be a place of safety. And it says Yahweh, they are shrinking back before the terror of Yahweh from the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake the earth mightily. Notice this, in that day men shall cast away their idols of silver and their idols of gold, which they have made for themselves to worship, to the moles and to the bats. In other words, the idea of the moles and the bats means they're considered as garbage. They're thrown away. To go into the caverns of the rocks and in the clefts of the ragged rocks from before the terror of Yahweh and from the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake the earth mightily. Stop trusting in man. Listen to that. Stop trusting in man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for of what account is he? It's a powerful statement, isn't it? Stop trusting in man. Now, you know, have you seen these pictures of these people with monkeypox? It's now. I don't know if this was the artist's intention, but it looks a lot like monkeypox, doesn't it? And it looks almost like a monkey creature, except with horns on. It's definitely a demonic kind of statue set up in public in New Orleans. Notice this in Revelation 16:2. So the first angel went and poured out his bowl upon the earth, and harmful and painful sores came upon the people who bore the mark of the beast and worshiped his image. Well, they did the whole scandemic thing, tried to get everybody to take the shot. And I saw recently a doctor claim that he believes he has proof. And by the way, some of these doctors were together and they were involved in the plane crash that went down in Brazil under very suspicious circumstances. And it was said that they were going to expose the connection between monkeypox and those who had taken the COVID vaccine. Now, I don't know what the veracity of that is, but it was on social media. Now, notice this here where it talks about these men of the earth going into the holes, trying to hide themselves from the wrath of Yahweh. We see a second witness for this in Revelation chapter 6. I saw when he opened the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as black sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became as blood. The stars of the sky fell to the earth like a fig tree dropping its unripe figs when it is shaken by a great wind. Now, that has to do with the shaking. Remember, in Isaiah chapter 2, it talks about shake terribly the earth. The sky was removed like a scroll when it was rolled up. That sounds a lot like Thessalonians, doesn't it? The return of Yeshua. Every mountain and island was moved out of its place. The kings of the earth, the princes, the commanding officers, the rich, the strong, every slave and free person hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains. They told the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? Well, as it says here, stop trusting in man. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 22, whose breath is in the nostrils, for of what account is he? In other words, he doesn't, man is can't do anything in the face of the judgment of Yahweh. And this idolatry thing is a very serious matter. And so we as believers need to speak out about this. And just the lewdness of this statue. It's just I mean I this you understand why I felt like I had to block out part of the statue. If you see the unblocked version of the statue, okay? It's unbelievable that they're putting these things up in public around our nation, which once used to be far more of a Judeo-Christian nation, but now is rapidly progressing into rank paganism and idolatry. So my that's my Watchman report. We need to pray for those things, speak up when we can. Thank you so much. Now we have our health minute, and let's see if we can get Sandra. I know she's in the room.
Okay. Well, I can kind of see them. All right. So today we're going to talk about prickly pear as an herb versus a side dish because in the Southwest it grows everywhere, and it's basically free nutrition, free meal. The Hispanic community, of course, uses it for a vegetable. It has a lot of health benefits. It's high in fiber. It's an antiviral. It protects nerve cells, and I really think that if you deal with neuropathy or any type of a nerve problem, you really should be taking this. If you take it with potassium, it is a very powerful diuretic. So, or if you deal with constipation, it's going to help with that too. I didn't put it down, but it's really great for the nerves. I take it literally 3 times a day, and it really helps with inflammation in the body. So it's great for that. It's an antioxidant, and it does reduce both cholesterol and blood sugar. It's been used for thousands of years to treat the wounds and burns of, for people. They use the juice or poultice. You could literally, remove the spines and cut it in half and just slap it on there and tape it on there if you had to. And there was a study done that said that if you eat cactus before consuming alcohol, that you will help alleviate a hangover. So that's pretty cool. There's very few allergic reactions, but, don't go too crazy. Headaches, nausea, bloating, and gas or diarrhea can be side effects if you eat too much. So you can boil it. Down here, they pretty much just saute it. Is how you see it in like Mexican restaurants. They'll throw tomatoes in with it. But I ran across a pretty cool salad. It had cilantro, the cactus, cilantro peppers. I mean, it just sounded really yummy. So you can look up all sorts of recipes for it. You should be able to buy it in a grocery store. I know you can buy it canned. I'm not sure if it's going to be as good canned, but every little bit helps. And there's lots of videos of how to remove the spines. You can eat the fruits too, but let me tell you what, they're full of seeds. So the best thing to do is, if you're going to eat the fruits, is to strain it or just plan on spitting out the seeds because they are just hard as little rocks. So does anybody have any questions? I don't have my comments up, so let me turn this so that I can.
Okay, well, thank you for that, sister. Any comments or questions on
Yes,
this?
yes. If you can hear me, this is Brother Baruch from. I'm in Mesa, Arizona right now, and that's become that plant. Prickly pear has become one of my favorites. I pick it every year, and
Yeah.
just this spring, I mean this summer, I got a chance to eat sorrel for the first time. But the seeds in those, I mean, I eat, so they're not. They don't bother me much. They're a little hard. They're like grapes with seeds in them. But I would assume that they're probably pretty good for you. But yeah, I would encourage anybody to. And thanks for everything you shared on that. So that's powerful, and a lot of that
Yeah.
I didn't know. But yeah, and it comes in different colors. I mean, light colors, there's some real dark ones, and all different sizes. And there's some native prickly pear that's native to Ohio, and it's
Wow.
probably other states. So you could probably grow them, wherever you are in the country, pretty easy. So, but
And
yeah,
they,
we do have abundance of them here in Arizona, obviously.
yeah. And if you want a cutting, just let me know, because literally you just set it in on top of the dirt and water it, and it will take root and grow. And you can grow it anywhere, but they do get large. They will take over, and those spines, man, they are not punks. So you got to be real careful when you're around them. Sometimes I think
Yes,
they
we
throw
do.
at us when we walk by.
Yeah, the fruit got the little spines that you can't even see. So those are, but a lot of people burn them off. You can get and torch them with a lighter and to get those ones you can't see off. But you don't want to get those in your fingers. But they'll be there for days. But they do kind of weird way. But yeah, it's good eating, good healthy stuff. Can't go wrong. Thanks for sharing, sis.
So one of the things, if you get cactus spines, and especially those little tiny ones you can't see, if you take your driver's license or a credit card and scrape the direction that it's going. So if it's going towards your fingers, you want to scrape towards your fingers real hard. Sometimes will help remove them. But that's the only thing I've ever tried that actually worked to remove the spines, because most of them do have a little barb on there. So just be careful with them. I've got a plethora of different types of cactuses, and like I said, if it's not one getting us, it's another. So just be cautious of that. All right, Professor, I believe I'm done.
Okay, we got one more question from Giacomo, it looks like. He's got his hand up. Go ahead, Brother Giacomo.
I was going to share that my neighbor here in South Carolina, I'm fairly sure they're Mexican, although the accent's more Puerto Rican in my opinion. There's a rabbit trail there, but they're
Yeah.
growing one in their yard right across the fence. I'm like, they'll reach over and grab a piece now. And I've had
Yes,
what's called nopal tacos before. They're actually very delicious. Little
they are.
complicated, as you can imagine. There's a lot of dicing involved. Otherwise, it's a delicious little treat there.
Right. Well, the thing is that I'm sure that they've knocked some off. You could ask your neighbor, to for a piece, and like I said, all it takes is dirt and water, and they grow in just about any type of soil. I was surprised after this last hurricane. I saw a bunch of cactus that had literally washed up against cement seawall type thing, and they were on top of a bunch of other vegetation, and they're literally growing now. So they're prolific. But once you get them, remember, if you get them in your yard, they're going to spread, and you need to really manage the growth and plan on how big you want them, because you'll forget about them, and the next thing you know, they've tripled in size.
Uh,
Be prepared for that. All right. Anything else?
All right, that was fantastic, Sister Sandra. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And
No problem.
you've always got this unique stuff that some of it I've never even heard of. That's fantastic. Because the stuff that you can just find out in nature is the kind of stuff we need to know about, especially with the second Exodus, which I believe we're near the second Exodus. All right.
Yeah. We're
Uh,
going to have something coming upon the earth. There's no doubt about that. And it's probably sooner rather than later.
yes. Hallelujah. Well, look at this. We got another hand come up. Melissa. Go ahead, Melissa.
Where do we hear about this second Exodus?
Well, you'll have to hear about that from some of the other teachings that we do, Melissa. But it's a very detailed. We don't have time to go into it now, but it's a very detailed. But if you want to get a jump on it, you can go to Isaiah chapter 11, the second half of that chapter, where it talks about Yahweh will extend his hand a second time to gather his people from all over the world, not just Egypt, but from all over the world. Okay, so you get a jump on it there. And if you want to talk to me privately about it, I can go into more detail with you. All right. All right. All right, guys. Let's continue on here. Let's see here. We already did this last time, Teshuba. I think let's go right to Brother James. He's got something he wanted to share tonight, and I think we wanted to have a little bit of time to talk a little bit about the calendar. I'm not sure what he's going to do today, but I've got your thing there on co-host, brother, so you should be able to share.
What I want to speak tonight is something that has been bothering me for some time, and I want to get right into it. So I've titled this, Am I My Brother's Keeper? And this refers to the incident between the brothers of Cain and Abel. In Bereshit, chapter 4, and verse 8 and 9, we read, And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Elohim said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? So what does it mean to be your brother's keeper? All too often, we hear of violent acts being perpetrated. But what are we to do? Well, have you considered just how prevalent that attitude is today? We live in a society that has been permeated with hate and discord. Whatever happened to standing up for others who were being ill-treated? Recently, it was reported that a young man raped a woman on the subway in New York City, and this while others stood by and let it happen. Or there was another story often repeated that someone beat a homeless person on the street while no one else lifts a hand to help. Brothers and sisters, we are called to be our brother's keeper, to stand against evil. In Wayikra, Leviticus 23, verse 4, we read, When you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall certainly return it to him. Read that again. When you meet your enemy's ox, not just your friend or your neighbor, your enemy, you're supposed to help him. When you see the donkey of him who hates you lying under its burden, you shall not refrain from leaving it to him. You shall certainly help him. And verse 7, keep yourself far from a false matter, and do not kill the innocent and the righteous, for I do not declare the wrong right. We see in our world around us today so much that is wrong, and it's becoming far too common to see these violent acts being committed, and few, if any, seem to be willing to step up to help the victims. Are people really becoming that heartless and uncaring? The Torah teaches us to love our enemies and to offer assistance if needed. In Matthew 5, verses 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48, we read something that our Mashiach has admonished us on. You hear that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those cursing you. Do good to those hating you, and pray for those insulting you and persecuting you. For that you become sons of your Father in the heavens, because he makes his sun rise on the wicked and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those loving you, what reward have you? Are the tax collectors not doing the same too? And if you greet your brother only, what do you do more than others? Are the tax collectors not doing so too? Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect. Brothers and sisters, we have been given a command to love even our enemies, to do good to them, even if they do not want our help, concern, or our compassion. But is praying for them alone enough? Because this is one of the things that the Christian church always seemed to be harping on, was we just need to pray for them. We just need to pray for them. But is that praying alone enough? I don't think so. We have been especially blessed in this nation of the United States of America. We are given the ability to do much good, not only for our enemies, but for all of our fellow citizens. How, you might ask? Well, for one thing, many of us are able to give to charities which help the poor, the sick, the downtrodden. Or do we just look after our families and our friends? But there is much more we are capable of doing. In this once great nation, we have been given a special blessing, one which the early Nazarene never had. You have been given the right to vote for the kind of government and laws that would benefit and protect all of our citizens. Are we using that resource that we have been blessed with? Surely it is obvious that we are living in an evil and lawless society. And I refer back to what Professor was speaking on in the beginning with these idols. These idols are bred from lawlessness. But we are not willing to work at changing that society. Or if we are not willing to work at changing that society, are we not just as guilty as those lawless ones? Are we willing to make a difference in the kind of society that we have? In Tehillim, the Psalms 34:14, turn away from evil, do good, seek peace and pursue it. In Psalms 37:27, turn away from evil and do good, and dwell forever. In the Proverbs 11:27, he who earnestly seeks good seeks what is pleasing, but to him who seeks evil, it will come to him. Amos 5:14, seek good and not evil, so that you live, and let Yahweh, your Elohim of hosts, be with you, as you have spoken. Verse 15, hate evil and love good, and set up right ruling in the gate. There it is, our brothers and sisters. We are to be the people who are setting up right ruling, righteousness in this nation once again. Continuing on, it might be that Yahweh Elohim of hosts shows favor to the remnant of Joseph. In Romans 12:20, instead, if your enemy hungers, feed him. If he thirsts, give him a drink. For in so doing, you shall heap coals of fire on his head. And verse 21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. We have that ability in the type of government that we have been blessed with. As I have been teaching for quite some time now, we are very blessed in this nation by the government that Elohim inspired our founders to set up. I am so thankful. 6 years ago, just before the COVID hit, I was able to get into a Constitution class that meets every Tuesday evening, and I have learned so very much more about this nation that our schools would never have taught me. Brothers and sisters, we've been called to be peacemakers, yet there is only one true way to peace, and that is through obedience to the Torah. This is what our Master Yahushua HaMashiach will do when he returns to the earth. Are we willing to work now towards that peace? While we know true peace will not come in this age, we should be working toward that goal of restoration of peace. Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, because they shall be called the sons of Elohim. In James 3:13, who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by his good behavior his works in meekness of wisdom. in verse 16. For where jealousy and self-seeking are, there is confusion and every foul deed. In verse 17. But the wisdom from above is first clean, then peaceable, gentle, ready to obey, filled with compassion and good fruit, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness sown in peace by those who make peace. Brothers and sisters, we are called to be peacemakers. We are not called to be warmongers. We are not called to be fighting wars, but we are called to be fighting evil. And we have that opportunity. I hope and pray that each and every one of you will consider the candidates that you have running for your government positions, because our primaries are the most important voting opportunities that we have. So much focus is put on the general election in the fall, but our primaries are where our representatives come from. And if we get a representative that is bad, whose fault is that? If we're not going to meetings and meeting these people, if we're not digging into their past to see what kind of people they are, and we just vote for them irregardless, we're going to get what we vote for. We cannot be lazy. We're called to be workers of righteousness. So let's do that. Let's work for the righteousness of Yah. With that, I will close this section. And if there's any questions, I will take those at this time.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Brother James. You know, I was noticing as you were reading there, you hear this narrative in the churches where they say essentially that the Messiah and he came to elevate a completely new way and a higher way. And then he talks about, love your enemies. And remember he told the story about the guy who was beaten and basically left naked and almost half dead. And a priest comes along and steps on the other side of the road and goes around him, didn't help this poor Israelite. And then another guy that was supposed to be a holy guy came around him, and it was a Samaritan that came along. The Samaritans were like second class. They were detested by, the hoity-toity Jerusalemites. And he has pity on this Israelite and bandages his wounds and takes him to an inn and leaves money with the innkeeper and says, hey, take care of this man. I got to continue on my journey. But when I come back through, if there's any more that I need to pay you for his care, I will pay you. You guys remember that story in the Gospels, right? Well, here it is right in the Torah that Brother James read, where it talks about even if you see a man who has a donkey that needs help with a burden of some sort, and he's your enemy, that he doesn't like you at all. So everything that Yeshua taught is in the Torah. He was just magnifying the true intent of the Torah, because the people had, you can put all kinds of facts and figures in your mind, but if your heart is far from Yahweh, if your heart is far from the true intent of love and mercy of the Torah, what good is it? What good is your religion? And so that's very good. That's my thought there on that teaching, Brother James. And then to wrap it up about you're right. If we don't get active and be proactive, I guess is the word I'm looking for, proactive, and making sure our vote counts and talking to people also. When you talk to your friends, your neighbors, and a lot of people don't even know what's going on. Sometimes you have to be their news. You have to be the news source for them. I tell people all the time, things that I see, and I'm not even amazed anymore when they say, well, where did you see that? Well, I've got my ear to the ground, social media and so on. So thank you again, Brother James. Any other thoughts for what Brother James presented tonight?
I put it in the chat. I stopped counting at 268 people running and registered for the office of president this election cycle. So, it's unfortunate that we only have two candidates that are, really being shown, but there are a lot of candidates out there. It just shows, I don't know, what I believe is a broken system, but just wanted to put that out there. That was it.
Yeah, and it's worth noting. It's worth noting that the GOP has shifted a little bit to the left in that they're not clamping down in the way that we would like on abortion. The other thing is that RFK Jr. has basically stopped his campaign, and here's the funny thing. When someone who's campaigning for president basically stops their campaign and requests that they be taken off the ballot, that goes without saying. I mean, but you know that Michigan and Wisconsin are refusing to remove him from the ballot. What possible reason could that be other than to meddle in? Because RFK now has RFK Jr. has basically thrown in with Trump. Not because I think he likes Trump, but because he realizes even greater evil is happening with all of this interference that's going on. This is something interesting to consider. Go ahead, Giacomo.
So I mentioned I just kind of forced myself, I wasn't that interested, but I forced myself to watch a speech that RFK Jr. gave about our health condition. This is actually post his getting out of the race. And I was blown away with his candor. We talked about chronic disease, the rise of diabetes, the rise of autism. I mean, like 1 in 5 as of right now is the number of diagnoses in America. And he said it's all about our food, processed food, um, chemicals we put into our food and such, addictive chemicals that are our foods, things you really can't get that are certain chemicals, I should say, that are used in our food products that are banned all across Europe, and we still allow these things. And I would love to see him a part of Trump's administration and getting him involved in, hey, it's time you stop putting these things in our foods now, or you will lose your certifications and such.
Right. And
So kudos, big time.
yeah, he also in that speech, because I know the one you're talking about, he also highlighted the fact that the vaccine schedule has continued to grow, 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 grow. It used to be just a few shots given to kids. Now it's like, then the next year is like, or next few years, whatever. They just keep growing it. It's a long, long list. And they're adding the COVID shot, which is an mRNA, as a matter of course now in a lot of these states to the schedule for kids. And this is after we already know the horrible fallout of the shots. So RFK Jr. is right on the money with that, in my opinion.
I hope they don't do to him what they did to his predecessors. And apparently, I don't know. I'm no one's conspiracy theorist, but I keep hearing that his nephew was murdered, and that plane accident was not an accident after all.
Yeah, I think it's just shocking when you see things like these 8 renowned doctors, too. I mean, when that happened, I was just, they're not even hiding it anymore. What are the chances that 8 of these guys who were outspoken on the mRNA shots, these are the guys who are most outspoken, who were most deep into the research and most presenting the kinds of things that were really upsetting the status quo? What are the chances that all of them would be in the same plane and that plane would go down and they still haven't figured out what went wrong?
Precisely.
This is really I like to say that it's usually darkest before the dawn, but I fear we may have to go through a dark period that the Bible calls the time of Jacob's trouble. But the dawn Remember, the Bible says that the day star shall arise in your heart. It actually speaks of Yeshua as being the day star shall arise in your heart. It could very well be an idiomatic way of describing the Ruach HaKodesh animating and the resurrection. You know, those who are in those who are dead in Messiah will be caught up in the air to meet the Master in the air, and then we which remain shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye and caught up in the air, and thus shall we be with the Master forever. This is what it says in Thessalonians, and then I believe the second part of that is in Thessalonians, or no, not Thessalonians, Zechariah chapter 14, where it shows him coming down, setting foot on the Mount of Olives. And it talks about, you know, this, it's an incredible chapter. If you guys haven't read that chapter, read that chapter and then put it together with Thessalonians. I think those two, I think it's a full picture when you put those two together. When Yeshua inaugurates his millennial reign on the earth, and a reign of peace, total peace. And there's other scriptures that talk about how, you know, the implements of war will be beaten down into plowshares. You know, all the metal that's being used to make tanks will be beaten down to plowshares, and then man will no longer learn war anymore. That is a great encouragement for all of us, but we just have to hold on. It's darkest before the dawn. We hold on, my friends, and stay faithful to the Master. And even if the Master calls us home, whether we are in the body or out of the body, you know, and if we're called home and out of the body to be with the Master, then we gain, you know, like Paul said. Hallelujah. And that was an interesting fact there, Sandra, about the 200. I didn't know that there would be that many. Melissa, go ahead.
Yeah, I just feel like there's an election coming up, and I'm not even registered to vote. But if something doesn't happen, we need to really be prepared because it's getting bad. And some of the laws that they're trying to pass are just absolutely horrendous. And like you said with the statue, it's not just idolatry, it's pornography. You know, and it's stuff that children shouldn't even look at, you know. So yeah, it's good versus evil. And yeah, I don't know where it's going to go if they retain power. If they retain power, we better be ready because it's not going to be good, is my thought. And I hate being a fear monger and I don't want to sound like doomsday, but we need to look up because our redemption draweth nigh. You know, because it is getting that bad, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but that's what I feel like.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to register to vote, sister. Please do, because what you want to do, the litmus test you should have is who's going to give you the most freedom to worship the Master. You have to figure out who's going to give you the most freedom to worship the Master. And I already know one party tried to stop people from meeting together and worshiping the Master, and they were pell-mell to let the bars stay open. So clearly it was not about safety. They just hate anything that has to do with the Bible. And so that I'm not going to name parties here, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. And one more thing before we get to Brother James. In Revelation, it says, here is the patience of the saints. It talks about there's a time coming when patience is required. We have to weather it. If you're still allowed to be in the flesh, you have to weather it. And it requires the patience of the saints. Go ahead, Brother James.
Well, I just wanted to not only agree with what Sister Melissa said, but to caution her, it's not just one party. Both parties, it doesn't matter which way this election goes, there is going to be violence. There's if Trump wins, the left are going to pull out all stops to do whatever they can to pull a coup on this country. If the Democrats win, they're still going to do it, and it's going to raise a revolution. So no matter which way this election goes, be prepared. If you are not if you are not presently stocking food, hurry up and get started. If you do not have heritage type seed to plant in gardens next spring, get them now before they're off the shelves. Do what you can to prepare now. Be prepared. The old Scout slogan was be prepared. And that's what we, as believers in Mashiach, need to be. We must be prepared.
Yes. And water, I would recommend gallons of water, because if there's no electricity, how are you going to pump your water up? You got to have water in containers somehow. That's something to think about too.
And this is something that I do right now. I catch rainwater. I can use that rainwater for washing. I can use it to flush my toilets. It's not the cleanest water for drinking, but you can you can run it through a purifier, and it's going to be just as clean, if not cleaner, than most of the water that comes out of the city pipes.
Yeah, you're right. There's like those little pitcher things. It's got those filters in them, stuff like that. Yeah. Sandra, you got your hand up, sister. Go ahead.
There was a guy on YouTube that was showing how to purify water from a really scummy pond. If you're anywhere, well, he used a grapevine in the south about 4 feet long. And if you keep the direction of the grapevine so that you're sticking the bottom of the grapevine in the dirty water and the upper part into a jar, it will literally pull the water out of the scummy pond and filter it into a container. The other thing he did was he took like 2-liter soda bottles, and he cut a piece of wood about 10 inches long, and he filled the one soda bottle with scummy pond water, and turned it upside down and let the wood filter the water. He had both the waters tested, and they were both drinkable water.
Okay. Yeah, good ideas there. All right. All right. So that was we'll close this part up, and I want to thank you all for your comments. And keep in mind that we have the only two things that are on the calendar. It's on the calendar, and that is the Sabbath services and the midweek manna. I don't think I need to bring that up because you guys are pretty familiar. They're both in the same room here. And so if we have anything else scheduled, then I will get it on there and I will alert you guys at the next meeting, okay? So let's complete our service here, and then if people want a prayer afterward, after the recording is finished, we can do so. We'll finish with the Aaronic benediction. Yivarekeka Yahweh, Vayishmareka. Yahir Yahweh Panavaleka, Vikuneka. Yisa Yahweh Panavaleka, V'yasem leka shalom. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. In the name of Yeshua Messiah, Prince of Peace. Amen.
The service is finito.
Okay, so here's our contact information. It's the Worldwide Jihad of Yahweh. We're presenting this. I'm Brother Smith. Here I'm in Greenwood, South Carolina, Hebrew Messianic Israel. There's my email, Shul HM Israel. Brother James Kramer, he runs the prison ministry and he does a lot of outreach, does a lot of Constitution type stuff, teaching. Reach out to him, the Isaiah 49 calling. MI Patriot 49 at proton.me. He's in Waldron, Michigan. If you're in that area, reach out to him. You know, he loves to have in-person fellowship. And so our website, hmisrael.com. And so